Good evening, guys. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Wanjala John. I'm joining you from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a digital skills trainer with Africa 118 in collaboration with Google Digital Skills for Africa. I'm joined in by my moderator, who is Joy Atieno. Feel free to engage her on the chat box and just tell us where you are joining us from, what you expect to get out of this webinar today, and also tell us how your day has been, so that as we are going to tackle this particular topic, I can get to know where you are joining us from and what are some of the things that you expect us to discuss. So feel free to tell us more about yourself. Tell us what you found interesting during the day, and if you know you are out there, or maybe you are joining us whether you are on your way home or home, just feel free to share this link out there with some of your friends so that they can also join us in and assist us to discuss this particular topic of staying productive online. So feel free, guys. I want to encourage you to be as open as possible and also post your questions on the chat, and I'll be glad to respond to them. So today we are going to tackle a topic called staying productive online. I know this is a very important topic at this particular time of the year. The moment we talk about being online, everybody starts asking, what is it in there for me? And all those concerns are going to be addressed towards the end of this webinar. And I'll be glad also to share with you some of the things that you need to put in place before you go online. And the moment we do this, we will be glad to share with you everything that we have. So basically today we are going to have our three main core agendas. That is setting up your remote office. I know either with the sensation of movement in different parts of the country, in different regions, you find that most of us are forced to either set up an office at home, or maybe at a coffee place, or at a given open area, so that you can engage with people. So we are going to see how best can you set up your remote office. And then the second thing, we are going to see, how do you build a productive work environment? For you to be productive, how are you supposed to structure your work environment? We are going to see that. We are going to see, what do you need to put in place? What do you need to have in check first before you say, I have a productive work environment? And lastly, we are going to see how to maintain your well-being. I know during this particular pandemic period, so many people are like, what is happening in this particular region? What is happening in this particular area? How are my clients behaving? How are the current target people that I want? How are they reacting to this particular issue? So also maintaining your well-being the moment you are doing all this is very important. So guys, feel free. Let us be interactive on the chat. Just familiarize yourself with the chat box. It is on your far right. So feel free to engage my moderator, Evans or Joy. Just tell us your name. Tell us how the pandemic has been. What changes did it bring to you as a person, as a business, or as an entity? Tell us on the chat. Did you resolve in working from home? What have you been doing about it? And towards the end, I know all of you would have known what you need to put in check before you working from home. Let me ask this question. How has COVID-19 impacted your role? How has COVID-19 impacted your role? I know COVID-19 has come at a given time that no one expected. And just because it is a very sensitive topic, you find most people, we were used to interacting with people, walking without our masks on. We were interacting with our relatives. We were traveling freely, trying to shake hands with different people, flying from one country to another or one place to another. But with the COVID-19, you find that there are some restrictions or measures that our government, or maybe the region where you are in, your government, has put in place to contain this COVID-19. So feel free to tell us on the chat, how has COVID-19 impacted your role as a business person? And I will be looking at some of the responses, and I will also share with you what have been happening in this other side that we are in. So guys, as I had said before, we are going to see how best, despite the pandemic, how can you be productive the moment you are at home? What are you supposed to do the moment you find yourself either at home or maybe at a restaurant and you need to be productive as usual when you're at your workplace? So feel free, guys, to respond on the chat. How has COVID-19 impacted your role as a business person, as a student, as a job seeker, as a hustler? Feel free to tell us on the chat and I'll be looking at that. So to our first agenda for the day, I want us to talk about setting up your remote office. Basically, even before we go to this, the moment I mention the word office, I know most of you think of a silent place, a place where there's a table, there's a chair, there's source of power. So tell us, the moment you think of a remote office, what comes to your mind? What do you need to put in check the moment you say, I have my remote office? Is it in your living room? Is it in your bed? Is it in your balcony? So feel free to engage us on the chat what you understand with remote office. And the moment you tell us that, we will be also glad to share with you some of the tips that you need to know the moment you decide to work remotely. So what is remote working? The moment we talk about remote working, this is a style that allows either professional to work outside the traditional office setup. You know, the traditional office setup is that kind of an environment where all of us go to a particular building. We say we are going to work, and then you find your table there, your desk, and your chair. And then you say, this is my office. This is where I do my thing. And in case you need me, come to this particular office. That is the traditional office. But if we are talking about remote working, this is a style where you find you work outside that traditional place. You can choose either to be in your living room, either in your bedroom, or in your balcony, whichever place that you find is suitable for you to work remotely. So it is based on a concept that work does not need to be done in a specific place for it to be successful. You find most of us, those people who are having laptops and you're having work and you carry work at home, does not necessarily mean you need to have that laptop on a desk or on a given traditional office setup for you to work. So the moment we talk about remote working, we are thinking of ways that you can accomplish that particular task successfully when you are off that office place. So guys, feel free to tell us on the chat, have you ever worked remotely? What were some of the challenges that you faced? And I will be glad to read them out to you and also share some of the insights on this particular topic. So let us go deeper to this discussion of remote working. And where can we work remotely? That is a question that I know most of you can ask. It can either be at home, or it can be in a coffee shop, or it can be a co-working space or a library. The moment I say home, most employees I know, either if you're working, you'll wake up very early in the morning, either an hour or 2 hours before your time, and you actually say, I'm going to work, so that you can commute to work, reach the office in good time, and work from there. So working from home, you find you do not actually have to commute. That is one. Two, if we say a coffee shop, you find either because you don't have internet connectivity, you don't have power, and you just need that ample environment where you can do your work. You can either choose, am I going to a coffee shop? If you are in Kenya or maybe in Nairobi, you can say, am I going to Java, or am I going to the mall in a coffee shop where I can just have my laptop plugged in a power source, and I have access to the internet, so that in case I'm having meetings, or in case I'm having any kind of concentration that I need with a particular client, you actually have the ample environment that you are looking for. And also we have the co-working space. The moment we talk about co-working space, this is an area where it's open, where there are free seats and chairs. You just come with your materials, set your office there, and then either you pay for those seats and desks that are available, and you actually use that particular space. And I'm very sure most of you can attest to this. So many people who do not actually have physical offices usually opt to work with co-working space. And during this pandemic time, you find either because of the nature of the economy, most people either resolve to going to a joint place where they can just use it for that particular day, as opposed to having a physical office where you do pay rent day in, day out. And then lastly, the library. Library is a common term that I'm very sure most of you are familiar with. So many people go to library where they can have focus on whatever they are doing. So the moment we are talking about places that you can work remotely, it can either be home or a coffee shop or a co-working space or a library. So guys, feel free also to tell us, have you ever worked remotely, and where did you work remotely? How was your experience? Tell us on the chat, and I will be glad to know where you are telling us all this. Thank you. I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing Bethwell. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Bethwell. We are good. And feel free to also tell us your experience. Have you ever worked remotely? What have you ever done remotely? And what were some of your key experiences the moment you are working remotely? So, guys, just to break it down, what do you need to work remotely? That's a question that I'll ask you. What do you actually need to work remotely? Do you need this particular thing? I'm not going to mention all of them, but for me, I might say the first thing that I need if I need to work remotely, I need a power supply. Tell us on the chat, what do you want the moment we say you are going to work remotely? What are some of the key things that you can do if you are talking about remote working? So hit us up on the chat, guys, and I'll be looking at some of your responses. And also feel free to share this link out there with your friends so that they can join us in this discussion, so that we can also get to hear what they have to say about this particular discussion that we are having. Just to break it down to very few points, what we need to work remotely either is a dedicated workspace. If I know I'm working remotely, where am I dedicating this particular space to work in? Am I dedicating my living room, a particular corner in my living room? Am I dedicating a particular corner in my bedroom? Am I dedicating a particular corner in my balcony? So you have to have a designated workspace. Always try to find a designated workplace. If you find a designated workplace, you know the moment you walk in that particular workspace, you'll find your concentration is up to the level as a traditional office. So don't usually just say today I'm working on the seat, tomorrow you're working on the bed, tomorrow you're working on this particular place. So please try as much as possible to have a dedicated workspace, a space separate from where you stuff in the house. That is one. Two, devices. What do you need? Do you need your phone? Do you need your laptop? Do you need a particular gadget that you currently use at your work? So which devices do you need? The technology that you need so that you can be able to work remotely. And then another thing that also I know most of you will need is the internet connectivity. If you know your work is more into the internet, do you have stable internet connection? Do you usually have that particular regular supply? If not, am I able in a position to tether my phone? Am I able to use the bundles in my phone to do particular work? So feel free to tell us on the chat, have you ever worked remotely, and what are some of the things that you do put in check before you work remotely? I want us to talk about how to create your workspace. I said you need to have a designated workspace, and you have to have a device, and also you need also to have internet. So how do you now create a designated workspace? I know everybody will say, provided I'm at home, I can choose to sit on any seat, either your couch or what. But if you want to have that productive work life, you need to create your own workspace. The moment somebody walks in there, they will automatically know, am I in a position to stick whatever I need here? Am I in a position to do what I need to do here? So first thing, whatever you need, try to avoid a bed or a couch where you are so comfortable, where you lay back either on a couch or on a very comfortable seat, because if you do not concentrate so much, you'll find yourself dozing off. The second thing, set up a table and a chair. This is very essential. The moment you have a very firm table and a chair, the moment you walk into that particular workspace, you'll find your knowledge and all your senses come in one place. and you'll not be distracted with this or that. And then the third thing, make sure the space is comfortable. Don't be in a place where people open the door on and off. They distract you, where everybody can look at you, can make funny faces. Some of them can even try throw some things to you. Just try to find a comfortable place. The moment you've seated there, there's no so many disruptions, and there's no also televisions there, or maybe music where you just listen background, or there's no a lot of noise coming from the other places. So try to find a comfortable place where you can easily concentrate. And then consider your posture. If you try to change your posture in terms of sitting or in terms of working, you'll find those people who tend to sit upright the way I'm seated, you'll find they can easily concentrate and do much work, as opposed to those people who are sitting in a very comfortable manner. Either you are in a coach, seated, relaxed in that particular manner, you will not be in a position to achieve your goals. So try as much as possible to understand your posture. How am I supposed to sit? If I sit this, am I going to deliver whatever I'm looking for? So guys, always try to keep those in check. And the moment you have them in check, you will be in a right place now to get your workspace in order. Now, talking about the gadgets, the devices that you need the moment you are working remotely. I'm very sure most of you, if you lose your smartphone right now, the first thing you'll start budgeting in with your next pay or with your next money or in your next salary is just a smartphone. So if you know the things that you might need to assist you work well and avoid disruption, I do not mean the smartphone where you are busy chatting with your friends, telling them you are at home, but a smartphone that can also enable you to keep tabs with your work. There are so many things that you can access that are work related on your phone. There are also other things that require the computer or a laptop that you're having. And don't forget writing down. I know this is a traditional way of doing things, but always try just to have a notebook and a pen. Or if you don't have that, you can also use the notepad on your laptop. So if you actually have a place where you can take notes, that one can also be helpful so that you can easily note down something that you need to put in check. So feel free to tell us on the chat, and I will be in a position to respond to you. So guys, those are some of the gadgets. So I'll be looking at some of your responses, whatever you say, and I'll respond to them. And also stay tuned towards the end of this particular webinar. My moderator, Evans, will be sharing a link where you can get access to materials where you can study more on how to increase your productivity online. And then do not forgetting, you also need a stable power. Stable power. If you know you are working remotely and you need power for you to work, make sure you have stable power. If there is no stable electricity, is there a generator? Or is there a solar panel? Or is there a power bank service? So that you are in a position not to be disrupted the moment you start connecting with your network. So please, if you know your work entails a lot of power, try to have backups. And after having backups, also, if you know you require internet, try as much as possible to find sufficient internet connection. If you know you are using this particular network, is this network stable in this particular area where I am? What am I supposed to put in place? Is there a slow internet? And what do I need to put in check before I start working? So please try to find sufficient internet connection, and try just to find the right network for you. If you know, either if you're in Nairobi or if you're in Kenya, you can say Safaricom is good, you can go for home fiber. If you know Zuku is working good in your area, go for Zuku. So try as much as possible to balance whatever you are doing, and you will be in a position to get the right thing. I want to hear some of your responses when we are talking about challenges that you face when you're working remotely. What are some of the challenges that you do face if you work remotely? Tell us on the chat. What have you ever worked remotely? Just to share a few with you. Have you ever worked remotely and you find that the moment you're working, either you'll find your neighbors making a lot of noise, either the kids are making a lot of noise there, or you'll find most people who are aware you are at home that particular day, they'll start calling you up and just trying to hook you up with other things which are not of interest at that particular time. There's this funny thing that I just remembered. There's one day that I was working from home, and we have dogs. My neighbor has dogs around. So the moment they know I've opened my window, they'll actually pass close to my window with that dog and try to make funny voices to me so that I can be distracted. And the moment people are listening to you, like you are listening to me right now, you could just pay attention to those funny noises that are coming out of that window, and you are like, are we going to listen to that dog barking, or we are going to listen to the speaker who is talking? So feel free to tell us in the chat what are some of the challenges that you've been having, and I'll be glad to respond to you. So guys, I'm going to look at the chat. Let me see what you people are saying on the chat, and just let us keep the communication going on how effective you can be working remotely. I see Bethwell asking, COVID-19 has really hit on us so badly here in Eldoret. To an extent, I had to close and do the hustle. I understand you, Bethel. COVID has actually brought so many businesses down, but the moment now we are talking about COVID and making people closing down their business, you are at the right place talking of working remotely. How are you going to change or convert whatever you are doing to you now being able to work comfortably where you are and still reach out to the audience that you are? I know it is a hard time. The moment you say it hit you badly, then the moment you need to close down your physical location and just resolve to working from home. I also see Doris Muga from Thika joining us. Thank you very much for joining us. And feel free to also engage with us on our discussion tonight on staying productive online. So we were discussing on what are some of the challenges. Share a few with you guys. Some of the challenges usually is loneliness or lack of social interaction. I know the moment you are at the traditional office setup, there are people, the moment you're just in the office and you see your friend coming in and you're like, hi, how's your day? How's your, at least that kind of social interaction, just trying to break the ice so that you do not feel your mind and all your resources are just being spent on that particular work that you're doing, so that it kind of brings some loneliness. And now also the second thing, you find there is no employee benefits. You find the moment you are working in the office, or maybe you are coming in and out of the office, your employer will find there are some benefits that they'll actually have to extend to the employees who are coming to work, as opposed to those who are working from home. And then you find also, if you are in the office, some of the challenges, it is hard to switch off. You find either it is that particular afternoon that you've eaten so well, either you've taken ugali and something heavy, and the moment you sit on your laptop and you are like either dozing off or maybe just trying to put yourself together, and you find it's very difficult and you doze off. So you find it's very hard to switch off. And if you're working remotely, you'll find you can be saying, okay, fine, I've done this. I think I can have a nap for 30 minutes or something, and then wake up and try to compensate the time that you're there. But at work, you'll find you'll not have that particular time to say, I'm sleeping for 30 minutes, then joining in late. So guys, feel free to share with us some of the challenges that you've been having, and I will respond to them. And now I want us to talk about some of the benefits of remote working. What are some of the benefits when we are talking about remote working? One, just to mention a few, you find there's less distraction in terms of the employees. If we are employees, all of us, and then you find either somebody comes to your desks to assist, asking you to assist in this particular thing, which is not your main job description, you'll find you'll just have to leave whatever you are doing and try assist. So it reduces that distraction. And then also the second thing, you find there is no commuting. You find there's no hassle of waking up early, trying to beat the traffic, or maybe coming back home late, trying to put yourself in order. And then also we find flexibility. You're flexible. Whatever I just explained before, you are in a position to be flexible and say, I need to do this in this particular time. If I don't complete it, I can leave, go finish whatever I was doing in my house or in my particular place that I am in, and then come back and sit on it. And then also some of the benefits when we are talking about businesses working remotely, you'll find there's greater productivity. I don't know if you people have ever sensed this, but if people work from home, they tend to deliver a lot of results as opposed to being at work. Because if you're at work, there's a lot of distraction. You just see either somebody walking on hills, either distracting you, or maybe something happening above your desk, and you're like, what is happening there? Or maybe just a lot of distractions. So it actually, businesses increase great productivity if they find people working from home, if they know whatever they're working on. And then also it improves employee retention, because you can easily say, today I want to complete this, and before I close my laptop, I'll be done with this particular thing. And then not forgetting reducing overhead costs. That these costs that are either of cleaning or of making tea or of making lunch for the employees who have come. So it actually makes the company also reduce the cost in terms of those particular overhead costs that we are talking about. So guys on the chat, please feel free to tell us some of the things that you find have been of benefit to you working from home, and also some of the challenges that we've shared. Keep the discussion going on the chat, and if you have any question, feel free to hit us up on the chat. Tell us what some of the key concerns that you have when you are talking about remote working. I want us to come to our second discussion today. How do we now build a productive work environment? We've seen what we actually require if you are working from home. You need to have a seat or have a designated workspace, have a device that you need, and also make sure you have internet. So all those three, you can keep the discussion going on the chat. What else you need to put in place before you start working remotely? Now, the second thing that I want us to discuss now is how to build a productive work environment. And when we say productive, it actually comes from the word produce. What comes out from whatever you are doing in that particular space. So why work environment is very important. The moment you have a very productive work environment, it also equates to quality results. And the moment you have a quality of your workspace, then be rest assured the productivity will increase. So let us put some thought into the workspace. There's some tips on creating some workspace, and if you actually need to have a designated area, we said this before and I will repeat it. Try as much as possible of creating a designated area. This designated area, is it actually having the fresh air that I need for me to just concentrate on my work? The second thing, do you have a right seat? There are chairs that are meant for working areas. Then chairs that are meant for relaxing. So please don't have a relaxing chair and then you say, this is my working chair. Unless you are in a different profession, maybe comedy, and that's what you use to to do your act, and you say that is my working area. But if you are just in this kind of a setup where there is an office, please try as much as possible to have the right chair for you. And then also get a file. And I know when I talk about filing, I'm not talking of the traditional ways where you can put your files all together, and just try to have a perfect filing where you can put everything that you've done in check. Just to share some statistics with you, the moment we are talking about remote working and having a productive workspace, please, there are some statistics that I want to share with you that will enable you change whatever we are talking about. One, we find 40% decrease in productivity due to workspace distraction. And this is because 27% increase in errors. If you do not have a proper work area, Either your seat is not in the right way that is supposed to be, either your work environment is dirty, either your table is not well placed, either there's no fresh air coming in that particular workspace, you'll find it will decrease the productivity to 40%. And the moment you put this in check, you'll increase it equivalent to those percentage that I've talked about. And just to talk about it, how do we minimize this? How do we now put this in check and try to minimize them? Just to look at some of the responses. Let others know your working hours. If you know you have friends who are very, I don't want to say very stubborn, but very concerned about your life. Either they wake up in the morning, hello, how are you doing? And then in an hour's day, and then in few minutes they're like, how's your evening? How is your, like every time they want to keep tabs with you. Try as much as possible and tell them from this time to this time I will be working on something and I will not be in a position to receive your calls or respond to some of your texts. Unless it's an emergency, please hit me on a chat. So let them know your working areas, your working hours. The second thing, avoid TV and household distraction. If you have the telly in your room, and you usually know anybody who has a telly, you did buy that telly for entertainment purposes, or maybe for you to be aware of whatever is happening. So please try as much as possible to avoid certain distractions, and you'll be in a position to have it right. And then also take regular breaks. When you're talking about taking breaks, it does not mean if you're working from home, you start working from 5 in the morning all the way to 5 in the evening. You can say, I'm waking up at 5, I'm doing my normal regular exercises, and then after that I'll have a sit down for 1 hour to do my work, and then take a break, have a warm shower, and then come back, have coffee, say I'm working for the next 3 hours. And you'll find if you take regular breaks, you'll be psyched up, and you'll be in a position to deliver some of the things that you did plan to deliver. So feel free to also tell us the things that you've ever considered to minimize distractions in your normal day-to-day work. How can we improve productivity within teams? I know if you're working anywhere, you have a team. And how do you improve productivity? Hit us up on the chat, guys. Tell us how have you been interacting with others? Have you been doing this? How do you interact with your team members? If maybe I myself am in Nairobi and you're my team member and you are in Eldoret the way Bethel is, or maybe you are in Thika the way Doris is there, and then either you want to interact with me or you want to collaborate. What are some of the ways that you think we can improve this? And just to share a few with you, we find if you are working in a project and maybe my input is required, your input is required, we need to put everything in order. So if you are working on a certain project and you need input from different sources, do you have a collaborative document? Do you have resources where you can easily meet and talk to somebody else? So you find, just to give you a heads up, remote team members need to be able to plan and collaborate on commitments and deliverables and tasks. The moment we talk about collaborating on commitments and deliverables, if we say we need to accomplish this by tomorrow evening, we need to schedule our timing. At what time are we on the collaboration document? What are we collaborating on? And I need to read whatever you have, you read whatever I have, and then we agree, so that the moment we commit by this particular time or this particular day, we should be done. So they also need to track the flow of work from the start to the finish. Try to see, are we in a position to understand the flow? It's like you start working on something. There's this funny picture. It's a kind of a room. I just remembered. It was kind of a room, and then you start painting. So you find instead of you starting painting from the inner side, you start painting from the door going to the inner side. So if you're painting the floor from the door where you are supposed to exit to the inner side, you'll find you are painting so well, and then when you come to the inner side that you are almost finishing, you ask yourself, how will I leave this particular room? And it actually requires you either to stand where you are or step on wherever you've actually painted. So try as much as possible to understand the flow How am I supposed to start and how am I supposed to end if I'm working on a particular program? So try as much as possible to collaborate in a document for everybody to understand here's the start, here's the center, and here's the end. So establish your deliverables, promote visibility. Don't just say this is visible to this particular person. Try to make it viewable to everyone who needs to collaborate on that particular document. So guys, feel free to tell us on the chat, have you ever collaborated on any project with your partner or with your team member or with your colleague? And I'll be glad to share with you some of your comments. Just also to share some statistics, we find out that 70% of the workplaces mistakes are due to poor communication. If I don't communicate something right to you, I'm very sure you'll not do what I expect you to do. Either because you'll say, I think John wanted me to do this, but if it's not really, I need to get a clarification. The moment you try to get a clarification to me, there's a poor network of communication. So you'll end up just doing what you think I wanted you to do. At the end of the day, if I come look at the document, I'm like, oh my God, what did this particular person do on this document? He's not supposed to do this. So try as much as possible to have good communication. Over communicate. We do say this. If something is not clear, ask your partner, ask your colleague, how am I supposed to do this? Is this being done in this particular way? And at the end of it, you'll find you in a good place to collaborate. Just to look at some of the general communication networks that we have Slack. Have you ever used Slack in your communication? Do you usually use emails? We have HubSpot and we have also Google Hangouts. These are some of the platforms that you can use to collaborate with your team members. Hit us up on the chat. Have you ever used some of the collaborative products that we have just shared? What was your experience when we are talking about them? So guys, just to ensure that you communicate effectively, we usually have some set rules that we do share with everyone. And this is one: please be as clear as possible if you are communicating. It's usually very boring if I'm joined in on a Google Meet or maybe on a particular channel, and then you find you're struggling to hear somebody clearly. Either they're breaking off, or maybe you hear the last bit or maybe the first bit of their sentence. So you'll try to join in the dots and you'll not get the perfect information. And just try as much as possible to be short and precise, and you will get what you're looking for. The second thing, think about the type of message and context. What do you want to be delivered? And how am I supposed to deliver it? And how will they respond to it? What time are they given to respond, so that it is clear to them? It's like if I tell you on a chat, good morning, and then automatically the moment you open that chat, you find it is evening. Will you say good evening? Or what will you say? So always try as much as possible to take keen interest on how you are responding to some communications that you receive, and also how will people respond to whatever you send to them. And talking about communication, we also have some video calls or some video meetings. We have Google Meet, we have Zoom, we have WhatsApp videos, we do have Skype calls, and also we do have Microsoft Teams. I know some of you have ever used all of them, some of you have ever used few of them, but hit us up on the chat, tell us, what was your experience when you are using these particular products? And what are some of the challenges that you did experience? And I'll be addressing them. Just to mention a few, you find the moment you connect with people either on this particular platform we're talking about, you can connect when they are remotely working or maybe they are on transit. And then also it improves the level of communication. It does not necessarily mean I need to come where you are in, but I can be in Nairobi where I am right now, and I can communicate to somebody who is in Tanzania, or who is in Kisumu, or who is in Uganda, and together we can be in a position to agree and understand what actually we need. Just to give an example, we have Google Meet. You find it keeps your team connected with enterprise grade video conferencing. I don't know if some of you have ever experienced the Google Meet. You'll find the moment you need to invite people, you can connect it. Anybody with a Gmail account, I am very sure you've seen the Gmail email changing and incorporating Google Meet in your email. So you can just start a meeting or go to your calendar and then hit the invite button, and you are in a position to invite your team members using their email address, and you can easily pick up a discussion and have a video chat with them and understand what are we supposed to do and what are we supposed not to do in this particular situation. So guys on the chat, tell us, have you ever used this particular collaborative Google Meet that we are talking about, and what was your experience? And then talking about that, also we have Zoom. Zoom actually came the other day, and it actually came with a bang. And I think that's when Google saw it best to incorporate Google Meet with their Gmail so that it can beat them in numbers. And when you are talking about Zoom, it's just an application downloaded from either on your computer or mobile device, and it has usually a meeting code and a meeting ID and a password. So the moment you install it on your laptop or on your desktop, you'll find you can be in a position to just tap into the invite link that has been shared with you with your partner or with your colleague, and you can be in a position to join or be in a position to feed in the password and be able to join that particular meeting. And just also not forgetting Microsoft Teams. I'm very sure those people who have ever interacted with banks online, this is usually their platform. So you find how to create teams and channels to organize your departments. So you work in different departments. You say we are going to create teams. If you are in sales department, if you are in finance department, you start organizing people in those particular departments so that the moment you have any discussion coming on, everybody in that particular discussion usually belongs to that particular discussion, as opposed to having it general for everyone and they fail to see what you are doing. And also, the good thing with these particular platforms, you can also raise hands, you can also put some emojis, you can clap, you can do all these features that usually comes with. And I know Skype is now viral. Skype has been in existence for some time, and you can also be in a position to have a Skype call among your team members. It can either be a call or it can either be a meeting via video, and you can also just share some insights on a particular project that you're working in, and you'll be in a position to deliver your project in time. Not forgetting now, how do we now run effective meetings? Make sure before you start any meeting, set the agendas clear before any meeting. And I know this is very common. I don't know if you people have ever experienced it. Have you ever had meetings with your close friends and they're your colleagues? If you don't set the agendas, you'll end up spending so much time discussing some irrelevant things. And now when time ends, you're like, we've not discussed this and that. So the first thing, always make sure you set an agenda. Finish the agendas first, have your points being taken, and now you can discuss any other thing after considering your agenda. So the first thing, make sure you set the agenda. This one ensures you frame your discussion and also have wider session of discussion with that particular topic that you have, and ensure everybody's on the same page. If you don't share the agenda, so many people will say, I was not aware we are discussing about this. And then the second thing, consider your tone of voice. Tone of voice is very good and also depends with how you are reacting. The moment you react negatively, people will say this is a negative reaction. So please, your tone of voice matters. So please take note on how you talk to people in a meeting. If you shout to them, they'll either feel not feel free to say or to air out their opinion. So please try to also, the body language also communicates a lot. It's not only the tone, but also the body language. If now I'm talking and then I do this with my hand, somebody will know I'm bored. If I do whatever they're not used to, they'll be not good with how you do this. Also, your tone can also be known the moment you're typing in on the chat box. Are you typing in using capital letters, and how is your tone? You can imagine if I'm typing in capital letters, that means somebody will say you are shouting. So try to understand, is it accommodative tone? Is it something that it is a positive tone that encourages somebody to talk? And then thirdly, encourage using cameras. When you're working remotely, so many people prefer putting their cameras off. And the moment they put their cameras off and their microphones are on mute, you are not sure if they're there or not. So you can be talking alone, and you don't know if they're there. So encourage people to put their cameras on so that you can talk like a real life thing. So the moment you talk about something and you're seeing your person that you're talking to, it also boosts the non-verbal communication. If I get your reaction and I'm like, oh no, you'll know I'm bored. But you can imagine somebody's reacting to a point that you've said offline, and the camera is off and the microphone is on mute, and he's like, oh, what? So you can actually fail to know their reactions on that. And then not forgetting, be timely. Try as much as possible to pay attention to time. So always make sure your time is up in place, and you will be in a position to have it right. So guys, those are some of the tips that you need to put in check if you are doing any meetings, and we will be okay to see how it goes. Just to look at some of the etiquette when you are doing a video. Please prepare yourself. You can imagine I'm having this video with you and I look not prepared. You find either I'm struggling to fit on your screens, either I looked disturbed. So prepare yourself, know whatever you need, what is here, what am I going to share. And then also, two, dress appropriately. Don't dress some things which will deviate people's attention to your dress code and not the content that you want to share. And also consider your lighting. Don't appear so dark, and also don't be so bright. Try to be accommodative to the viewer that is watching you or the people that are in the meeting. And then consider your background. Most people usually prefer white backgrounds because it does not have all those that pulls people attention. And not forgetting, consider your audio. Always do a sound check. Is my audio okay? And the moment you find your audio is okay, am I in the good place or not? So guys, always make sure you do all those checks. Your background, your audio, your dress code, and also make sure your lighting suits the particular thing that you are doing. I want us to look at some of the effective ways to collaborate on a document. And the moment I'm talking about collaboration, it means we need to communicate with another team member in a given place. So do you usually have the right tools? Does he need to do this on this particular document? Have you enabled them to be editors or just viewers? There's some people who share documents and they say, I've shared it with you, only for you to go click on it and you find you are not in a position to write anything. So try to equip yourself with the right tools. Does this particular tool enable me to do this, and that? The second thing, make the project management easier. If you want to make the project successful, make sure you've set out the agendas right. What do they need to do? And then make the document easy and accessible to them. Let it not be so hidden. If you know you have a WhatsApp group or if you have an email, try and tell them this is link is posted on the group description. You can, if you just want to access that particular thing that you are talking about, you can get them on the group description, as opposed to just putting it on the chat. And then the moment the chats become so many, people lose track. And also don't forget to prioritize the company culture. Even if we are collaborating on anything, try to observe the company culture. What is the culture of your company? What do you stand for? What do you say when you're talking about this particular thing? Don't just do things in your own way and then say, I've done this. As we were looking at how to have a productive work environment, I'll share 4 tips which will all of you need to take note of. And if you don't have to take notes, you can have a screenshot of your screen so that you can have these 4 points at home. 1, make sure you always over communicate. communicate with your team regularly. If they know we are having this and we are going to discuss about them, make sure you communicate, over communicate. The moment you communicate, you put people alert. Second thing, be disciplined. Remove working is not a vacation. Remote working is not a vacation or a paid leave. Be disciplined with yourself. If you are working remotely, I need to accomplish this in this particular time. Am I in a position to? If you are not, how am I going to compensate my work? So be disciplined with yourself. The third thing, have your tools ready for work. If you know you are going to require this particular thing, if you're working, make sure it is in line before you go anywhere else. Have everything in order so that you do not look undisturbed. And then the last thing, find your booster and use it. What boosts you? Is it an energy drink? Is it a coffee? Use what gets you energized. Is it some cool music? There's some people, they work good with some cool slow music at the background. So try as much as possible. What do I need to boost my energy level? Do I need to have regular breaks? Do I need just to wake up and stretch? What do I need to do so that you can easily get what you are looking for? Guys, feel free to pose any questions that you have on the chat regarding the discussion that we're having today. That was having a productive work environment. I've shared some of the tips that you need to put in place, starting from being disciplined when you're at home working, and also trying just to put everything in check in your designated work area. And now to the last thing that I want us to cover for the day, that is how do you manage and maintain your well-being? After doing all this, how do you manage and maintain your well-being? So many people have talked about this pandemic, so many restrictions, so many news here and there, people saying this, people saying it's not real. I've not seen somebody who has done this and that. But the moment also you are working from home, try as much as possible to maintain your well-being. And what do I mean when we say maintaining your well-being? Why is it important to maintain your well-being? That's the big question that I want to ask you. Why do you think it is important to maintain your well-being? Because if you are not well physically, it means you are not going to deliver what you are expected to deliver. So one, it impacts overall to your health. If you are not well upstairs or in your tummy, you will not deliver what you're supposed to deliver. Second thing, it leads to greater productivity. If my well-being is okay, I'm not disturbed in my mind, I'm not disturbed, I'm not hungry, I'm physically energized, my productivity will increase. The third thing, it increases resilience. You'll find you can actually overcome obstacles that come on your way. But if your well-being is not okay, you'll find anything that comes and challenges you, either you stumble off and you lose your position. So please try as much as possible to understand, am I in my right senses or right mind, and am I getting it right or not? And then not forgetting, it boosts your morale and also reveals happiness. There are some people, the moment they walk in their office or they walk at their workspace, they just gloomy. They are not happy with whatever they are doing. You're like, I didn't expect this. Why is it raining? Why is it doing this? Look at the positive side of life. What am I supposed to do to make it a successful day? And towards the end, you'll find it is working. And then what can I do to maintain my well-being? That's the question I want to ask. What can you do to maintain your well-being? So feel free to tell us, what have you been doing to maintain your well-being? And I'll be glad to respond to you. Avoid overworking. Please try as much as possible to avoid overworking. And when you're talking about avoiding overworking, there are people who work without breaks. When you're working remotely, make sure you have breaks. Take breaks, either tea break or maybe just a break to ease out and stretch, or a break even to respond to some of the calls that were coming in, and then you can be in a position to refresh your mind. The second thing, be clear to your team before you leave. If you are going to leave for a break, make sure it is clear. And then also turn off notifications when you are on a break. If you are on a break, I know there can be notifications of a meeting coming up in 30 minutes time, this and this happening. Just try to turn them off and just say, I want to have my mind relax and just feel at ease. No disturbance with the notifications, no phone calls. Let me just do what I feel like doing. And then after that, be ready for a culture shift. How do you become ready for this culture shift? You find you have to trust your overall performance. What am I delivering? Am I in the right place? Am I getting the right concept of working? Try as much as possible to put it in check. And just to summarize whatever we're talking about on overall well-being, one, exercise regularly. Do you do enough exercises if you're working remotely? Do you wake up, you make morning runs, you have some push-ups? Do you just relax and just do some physical exercises so that you can re-energize your body? The second thing, view your mental health as serious as physical health. Your mental is very important as your physical health. Don't just wait until you find a scar on your body and you're like, where did this come from? So try as much as possible to understand your mental health and you'll get it right. And then check in with your manager or team regularly. Always try and make sure you communicate to them. What do we need to do for the week? What do we need to do for the day? So that the moment you are structuring your schedules, you'll know my manager or my team is required to do this or deliver this in this particular time, so that you are not caught off guard. So always try and understand, do I communicate with them? What have they said? What is their input with whatever I did? So that you can keep yourself in check. And then separate your professional and your personal life. Don't have the two being mixed up. And always understand to organize personal social meetups. There's so many people who have been working remotely and they've just been saying, I'm not going to meet up with anyone. So please, if you are working remotely, try even to walk out, meet some people so that you can also create that ample environment where you can talk, meet with people, laugh off. Just try to understand the environment around you. It actually eases and improves your well-being upstairs too. So try as much as possible to do that and you'll see the interactions. So guys, feel free to also tell me on the chat what are some of the things that you've done to improve your well-being, and I'll be glad to read them to you. Let me ask this question as we are finishing up our webinar. What are some of the next steps that you are going to do if you are working from home? Some of the next steps. Are you going to change the way you work at home? Are you going to change your workspace? Are you going to change your work area? Are you going to change how you interact with people? Are you going to communicate effectively? Are you going to do this and that? Hit us up on the chat. What have you gotten from this particular webinar? What are some of the things that you think were essential for you that you never knew? And I'll be glad to read them out here. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. My moderator Evans will be posting the links to you people. Feel free to like our social media handles. Tell us on the social media handles you joined this webinar. What did you find interesting? And what are some of your key takeaways after this webinar? And we'll be glad also to have those responses. Don't forget, as I had said earlier when we are beginning this webinar, we are going to share with you a certificate of participation for just sparing time at this particular evening to join us in this discussion of staying productive online. And let us keep the discussion going on so that we can also encourage those people who are still working from home and also working remotely on how are some of the effective ways that you can increase your productivity. So hit us up on the chat box. Tell us how you found out the session was. Tell us some of the comments that you have, and I'll be glad to read them later. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. This has been a great session. My name is Vanjala John, for those who joined in late. And I know my moderator has done a good job. That was Evans. And I want to thank you, everyone, for joining us. And have yourself a blessed evening, and God bless. Thank you.